The U.S. Census Bureau reports that almost 30% of Kern County is a member of Generation Z, an age group known for rapid social change, whether shaped by social media or social movements reminiscent of the civil rights era. Well, one Peabody Award-winning Apple TV Plus show is speaking to this generation's coming of age and bending genres along the way. 23 ABC's Kristen Vartan caught up with the cast and creator of Dickinson.
It's a period piece about Emily Dickinson. I was kind of like, okay. You just instantly think of like, boring.
She's so extra.
I remember reading this and feeling like it was the absolute opposite of boring.
It was fun and fresh and unique and different, and it has that modern language and this modern twist and this look into how Emily had a very modern way of thinking.
Dickinson is not your American history lesson on the infamous American poet, but showrunner Elena Smith says for our times, it can have some major takeaways.
And I wanted to ask you why it was important for you, just in general, for this show to create something like this, to make a pure drama so cutting edge, from the diversity to the modern slang, etc.
I've certainly done a lot of research about the 1850s, but I'm definitely much more interested in the 2020s, which is turning out to be a pretty complicated era of its own.
She adds that it was important for her to give women, people of color, and queer people the screen time they have not gotten in the past, but she feels they so deserve.
And in my opinion, that's what art is for. Like, it's for moving the conversation of society.
And in season 2, the society as Emily Dickinson, her family and friends know it, also move forward.
I love being part of a show that doesn't talk down to its audience. It's a thrill as an actor, and it's a thrill as a young person to know that this sort of show is getting made.
From contributing to the abolitionist movement.
You could put your name on what you wrote, would you?
Austin really is growing as well in this season. Especially, we see this arc of like a social movement happening in his barn at his house, right? And I feel like you've been very active on social media talking about these things. So what did it mean for you to play this arc and kind of reflect on this year?
Austin really wants to make a difference. I think that's the biggest thing that's really driving him. He got the success that he wanted in marrying Sue. He has a big house, but he kind of feels empty.
To grappling with fame or fighting for the chance to be a woman in one's own right.
The witches of Salem walked so we could run.
Your character, Lavinia, she comes into her own so much as a woman. First season, she was very into being married, and now she wants to be an independent witch woman, which is so cool. And a lot of people are just spending a lot of time with themselves during this year of this pandemic. So what kind of message do you want to communicate to our audiences now in this place of growth that they're all experiencing too?
That's such a lovely question. I think something that I've learned from Lavinia.
Follow your heart. And I think in this moment after quarantine, we're going to see a lot of changes in how every structure of our life is organized. And so if you can start from a place of being honest with yourself about what feels good to you and do that, Lavinia would be very proud.
And no matter what your background or what era you're from, Steinfeld thinks that during a stay-at-home era, you can learn from Emily Dickinson, the poster child for powering through isolation.
We're now, like you mentioned, in this state of isolation, watching a story about this young woman who was in isolation, basically, and still managed to be creative. She hits these roadblocks and she feels lost and confused and anxious, as we all have, but she manages at the end of the day. And I think it's important to sort of see that is possible.
The first 3 episodes will drop on Apple TV Plus January 8th, the rest to be released weekly on Fridays. Kristen Vartan, 23 ABC News, connecting you.